You're sitting across from someone you've known for years. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's the family member everyone calls the kind one. You're telling them about something good that just happened in your life, a promotion, a new relationship, a small win you're actually proud of. And while you're talking, you watch their face do something almost imperceptible, a flicker, a small dimming, and then they say something that on paper sounds supportive. Oh, that's nice. I'm happy for you. I mean, I've been working twice as hard for half as much. But you know, it's great that some people get lucky, and the room goes quiet, and you find yourself somehow apologizing for your own good news. You've just met one. You probably didn't realize it. Because covert narcissists don't announce themselves, they don't slam doors, they don't yell, they don't fit the cartoon version of narcissism that the internet has trained you to look for. The most dangerous narcissists you'll meet in your life will never raise their voice. They will be the nicest person in the room, the most patient, the most reasonable, the one everyone trusts. And by the time you understand what they actually are, you'll already have lost something. You know, confidence, time, peace of mind, sometimes years. In this video, we're going to decode the 5 most common types of covert narcissists hiding in plain sight, the exact phrases they use, and why your brain is wired to miss them. By the end of this, you're going to recognize at least one person you already know, and you'll never look at them the same way again. Before we go further, one thing needs to be clear. A covert narcissist is not someone who is simply shy or introverted or sensitive. Real sensitivity has nothing to do with this. A covert narcissist is someone whose entire identity is built around being seen as good, special, or wronged, and who will quietly bend every relationship they're in to maintain that image. Overt narcissists demand admiration loudly. Covert narcissists extract it silently. They don't need a stage, they need an audience of one. They need you. And because their tactics look like virtues, your nervous system never sounds the alarm. You don't run from someone who seems kind. You don't argue with someone who seems hurt. That's the entire mechanism. That's why they get away with it for so long. And here's the part that should chill you most. The reason this is happening more now than ever isn't because there are more of them. It's because the modern internet has handed them a vocabulary. Words like trauma, boundaries, empath, healing. These were meant to liberate the wounded. Covert narcissists have learned to wear them like armor. They have studied the language of psychology, and they will use it on you before you even know what's happening. The first one you've met is the selfless helper. This is the person who is always doing things for you, and somehow you always feel slightly worse afterwards. They drove you to the airport at 4 in the morning. They covered your shift. They brought you soup when you were sick. By every objective measure, they are the most generous person in your life. But notice what happens the moment you set a small boundary. Suddenly, every favor they've ever done gets weighed. After everything I've done for you? That's the signature line. Not "I'm disappointed," not "let's talk about this," but a quiet accounting of debts. You didn't know you were keeping. The selfless helper isn't giving, they're investing. Every act of kindness is a deposit into an emotional bank account, and they remember every cent. When you finally need to say no, the withdrawal comes due. And the worst part, they will genuinely believe they are the good one in the story. They have to. Their entire self-image depends on it. So they will help you and resent you and frame the resentment as hurt and frame the hurt as love. And you will spend years feeling guilty for being treated well. The second one you've met is the eternal victim. This is the person whose life is always somehow falling apart in a way that requires you. Their boss is a tyrant. Their family is impossible. Their last 3 partners were all narcissists. Every job, every friendship, every situation seems to break the same way. Never their fault, never their pattern, always the world being cruel to them specifically. At first, you feel deep sympathy. You listen for hours. You give advice they don't take. You start canceling your own plans to be available for theirs. And then one day, something good happens to you and you notice you don't tell them, not consciously. You just don't want to deal with the deflection because the eternal victim cannot let your joy exist without their pain. They will turn your wedding into a story about their loneliness. They will turn your promotion into a story about their unfair boss. And when you finally try to pull back, they will tell other people gently, of course, with tears in their eyes, that you abandon them. That's the trap. Their suffering is real to them, but it's also their power. It's how they keep everyone in their orbit, just close enough to be useful and just guilty enough to never leave. The third one you've met is the humble bragger. This is the most socially acceptable covert narcissist, and that's exactly why they're so hard to see. They will never tell you they're the best. They'll tell you they're tired from being the best. I'm so exhausted, my boss won't stop giving me the hard projects because nobody else can handle them. I hate that everyone always comes to me with their problems. I just attract that energy. I wish I was less perceptive, honestly. It's a curse. On the surface, these sound like complaints. They are not complaints. They are advertisements wearing the costume of complaints. And here's the part that should chill you. The humble bragger isn't just bragging. They're conditioning you. Every time you respond with reassurance, oh, you're amazing, of course, people come to you. You are giving them exactly what an overt narcissist would demand loudly, but you're giving it freely because they made you think it was your idea. They have outsourced their own supply to you, and you didn't notice. That's the genius of it. They don't have to ask for admiration. They've designed conversations where you'll volunteer it just to be polite. But here's where it gets darker, because the next two are the ones you absolutely have in your life right now, and they are the hardest to name out loud. The first three, you can usually spot them with a little distance. The next two are the ones who feel like family. Stay with me. The fourth one you've met is the quiet critic. This is the person whose criticism is so subtle, so wrapped in care, that you have to replay the conversation 3 hours later to even realize you were insulted. I love that you're trying that new look. Most people couldn't pull it off. It's so brave of you to apply for that job, especially with no experience. I really admire your confidence. I'd never put myself out there like that. Read those again. Each one is a knife wearing the costume of a hug. And if you ever try to call it out, they'll be devastated. I can't believe you took it that way. I was complimenting you. This is exactly why it's so hard to talk to you. Now, you're not just hurt. You're hurt, and you're the villain. That's the maneuver. The quiet critic has a very specific job in your life. They keep your self-esteem set to a level where you'll never quite outgrow them. Not low enough to leave, not high enough to be a threat. And the reason it works is because on average, 80% of what they say to you is kind. The cruelty is rationed, just often enough to keep you uncertain, just rare enough that you can never quite prove what's happening. That's not communication. That's not honesty. That's intermittent reinforcement. And it is the same mechanism that hooks people to slot machines. The fifth one you've met is the devoted empath. This is the most dangerous one on this list, and it's the one almost nobody talks about. This is the person who has built their entire identity around being a healer, a feeler, a soul who is just too sensitive for this world. They cry at commercials, they post about boundaries, they say things like, I'm just an empath, I absorb everyone's energy, and you trust them. Of course you trust them. People who feel that deeply couldn't possibly hurt you on purpose, right? Watch what happens when their feelings collide with yours. You bring up something they did that bothered you. Within 30 seconds, they are crying harder than you are. Their pain has expanded to fill the entire room. Your complaint, the actual thing that started this, has somehow become a footnote in a story about how hard their life is, how much they're trying, how no one understands them, and you, who came into this conversation hurt, are now comforting them. The devoted empath uses emotion the way an overt narcissist uses anger. It's not a leak. It's a tool. Their sensitivity is selective. They feel everything when feeling everything benefits them. They feel nothing when they're the one who caused harm. And if you ever try to point this out, you will be told that you are cold, that you don't understand pain, that you are gaslighting them by holding them accountable. Now look back at those five. Look carefully. The selfless helper, the eternal victim, the humble bragger, the quiet critic, the devoted empath. Notice what they all have in common. None of them look like a villain. Every single one of them has built a public identity around being good. That's not an accident. That's the entire strategy. Covert narcissism is not a personality. It's a survival system. A child who could not get attention by being talented, dominant, or loud, learned to get it by being wounded, helpful, or misunderstood, and it worked. So they did it again and again, until they became a person whose only way of feeling real is to make other people feel small. in a way they can never quite name. The reason you've been confused around them your whole life is not because something's wrong with you, it's because they've trained you to question your own perception. Every time you felt drained after a kind conversation, every time you walked away from a compliment feeling smaller, every time you wondered if you were the crazy one, that wasn't anxiety. That was your nervous system trying to tell you the truth that your conscious mind couldn't yet accept. Think about the last time you walked away from a conversation feeling vaguely worse and you couldn't say exactly why. Think about the friend you dread seeing but feel guilty for dreading. Think about the family member whose name in your phone makes your shoulders tense before you've even read the message. That feeling is not paranoia. That feeling is not ingratitude. That feeling is data. Your body has been keeping a record that your mind has been politely ignoring, because admitting what's actually happening would mean admitting that someone you love or trust or owe loyalty to is not who you thought they were. That's the hardest part of all of this, the grief. Naming a covert narcissist in your life is not just an act of recognition, it is an act of mourning. You are saying goodbye to a version of that person who never actually existed, only the costume of them that you were given. Here's what you do with this. You don't confront them. Confronting a covert narcissist is the single fastest way to become the villain in their next story. They are masters of the long game, and they will rewrite the relationship the moment you push back. What you do instead is much quieter and much more powerful. You stop performing. You stop reassuring. You stop apologizing for things you didn't do. You stop explaining yourself to someone who has built a career out of misunderstanding you. You let your responses get shorter. Your availability gets smaller. Your reactions get flatter. And you watch what happens. Because the one thing a covert narcissist cannot survive is an audience that has stopped applauding. They don't need you to fight them. They need you to feed them. And the moment you stop, the entire machine falls apart on its own. You've already met one. You know exactly who they are right now. The question was never whether they were in your life. The question is what you're going to do now that you can finally see them clearly.